Welcome to This Is Living with Josh and Aaron Hawley.
We all the time, day to day, we face those choices. Okay, today, what's going to be my priority? Today, what am I going to go after? Today, how am I going to handle the busyness and the competing demands?
Jesus tells his followers that those who come to him will have life and life abundantly, or life to the full. So that's sort of the idea that we're after.
There's a good life out there. Let's go and find it.
Hi, I'm Josh Hawley.
And I'm Aaron Hawley. Welcome to our home. We are so glad to meet you and have been looking forward to this for a very long time.
You know, this is something that Aaron and I have been talking about. We've been dreaming about doing. We're so excited to get to share with you a little piece of our lives, which is really, I mean, we were talking, Aaron, it's really sharing a little bit of a piece of our adventure as we go on a journey ourselves to try to live life and to live it to the full. I mean, to discover what really matters in life. What is it that we're trying to go after in life? What is it that we're excited about that motivates us? And what does that look like? What's it look like to really live? That's what we talk about so much, and that's the adventure that we want to share with you.
I love that. I love that idea of really living. And as we were thinking and praying about this podcast, one verse that came to mind is John 10:10. And in that verse, Jesus tells his followers that those who come to him will have life and life abundantly, or life to the full. So that's sort of the idea that we're after here.
Yeah, I mean, what does it really mean to have life to the full? What's it mean to live it abundantly? We're all living, obviously. We're all going about our daily lives. Everybody's busy, but what does it really mean to go after the things that matter? What's it really mean to have life to the full in the midst of the busyness, in the midst of the craziness? What's that look like? But before we get into all that, maybe we should say a word or two about ourselves.
Absolutely. So I'm Erin. By trade, I'm a Supreme Court lawyer and author.
And I represent the United States, or I represent Missouri, rather, in the United States Senate. Those are our day jobs, and they're important jobs. We're glad to have those jobs. But we're also, maybe more fundamentally, we are husband and wife, we're mom and dad, and we're also best friends. And we want to share with you that aspect of our life, these most important to us, the most important parts of our life, and our journey together.
Absolutely. And as we're on that journey of discovery, again, to come back to that idea of deep, true, and meaningful life, one of the neat things about the New Testament is it uses two different words for living. And one of those words is bios, which just means, as Josh said earlier, just sort of being alive. And sometimes you feel like that at the 4 or 5 o'clock when you've had the kids all day and you're just making it to bedtime and just sort of being alive. And on the other hand, the word that Jesus uses in John 10:10 is Zoe. And what Zoe means is this full and abundant life. It's real and true life. It's active life. So it's this idea of living fully to the potential that God designed us for.
You know, when you think about our popular culture and the media, so often what we hear when it comes to what we should be doing with our lives is we hear that, well, you need to do more. You need to buy more. You need to get more, right? You need to get that raise.
Have more.
You need to have more. You need to go get that title. You need to consume more prestige. It really comes down to many times, I think, our popular culture, it comes down to either consume more or get more status. And sometimes those things go together. And I guess the question that we've been asking ourselves, I mean, we've been married now for 11 years. We've got 3 kids. Our lives are busy in a wonderful way. But as we go through life, as we're in the midst of that busyness, we're asking, well, wait a minute. What is it that's really, really important here? I mean, what are the things? What is really living? And for us, our journey of discovery, right, is that it really comes back to that idea of Zoe. It's like, well, what is abundant life? What's the full life? Is it about just like getting the next thing? Is it about just getting more? Is it about getting that next title? Or is it really about leaving a legacy? Is it really about living for the permanent things? Is it really about finding eternity in the day-to-day moments of life? And, one metaphor I like, Aaron, is, I mean, maybe it's not really even a metaphor. I mean, one image that I really like is, as believers, we think that part of what we're supposed to do is live the life of heaven now. We're supposed to bring heaven down. We're supposed to say, heaven come. And we're invited to live the culture of heaven right now and to find the culture of heaven in our day-to-day lives. And boy, that's exciting. That brings you purpose. That brings you meaning.
I love that. And as we think about the permanent things, the things in which we can, bring heaven into and live today, I think we've talked and thought about, family, marriage. How do we teach our children that Jesus is alive and active in their lives today? We've thought about friendship. We've thought about, how to deal with technology, all of these things that we face as parents and as partners in marriage, as well as in our jobs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, life is full of challenges. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns. Life is full of obstacles. And we've experienced all of those things as well as great joys. But I think the challenge that so many people face, whether you're a parent or not, whether you're married or not, but all of us who are out there trying to live life and go after it, what we face is in the midst of those things, what is it that motivates us? What is it that is really driving us forward? And what is that life to the full? What does it mean to really live? And how can we, as you said, Aaron, how can we pursue the culture of heaven in everything that we do? How can we bring that into everything that we do and live that life? And boy, I mean, that's exciting. And we look forward to talking with you about those different things and the things that we're facing, whether it's with our kids, whether it's with friendships, in marriage. All of those things are opportunities to say, boy, let's go after life to the full. Let's go after the life of heaven. Let's say heaven come in every part of our lives. I mean, it's really, really exciting. And we want to share a little piece of our adventure in each of these areas with you. So maybe we should say something about how we ended up here. I mean, here we are. We are sitting on a couch in our study in our home. But we're we have the jobs that we talked about. This isn't. Some people might expect, this is going to be a political podcast. I mean, Josh is in the Senate. Aaron is a Supreme Court lawyer, so they're going to talk about the Supreme Court. And they're going to talk about politics. But this really isn't a podcast about politics. It's not a podcast about the law of the Supreme Court. I mean, inevitably those things will pop up because that is where the Lord has called us. That is the work that we do. But it's not really about that. It's really about our effort as people to go after and to find that life to the full.
Absolutely. And so if we think a little bit about how we got here, as Josh mentioned, we've been married for 11 years. And he did give me warning that he was interested in politics. To be completely truthful, I thought that would, be when our kids were in college or grown and had kids of their own. Not at this stage. But the Lord has opened so many doors and shown favor to Josh and been gracious to us. And I've been so privileged to see him get to lead and to work for the people of Missouri. So Josh ran for office as Attorney General of Missouri after we both taught at the law school. So that was sort of our launch into the political world.
Yeah, we started. I ran for office for the first time in 2016. So as Attorney General. Before then, we were both practicing attorneys, both with a background in constitutional law. We both taught law as well as practice. And then I ran for Attorney General, which is sort of the state's top prosecutor, the state's top legal official. So that's what that job is. I did that in the state of Missouri. And then in 2018, we ran for the United States Senate. That was something we hadn't planned on doing. I mean, we hadn't planned.
Definitely not.
That was it. Tell from your perspective, babe. Tell us how how do we end up here?
Yeah, so to put it in full context, we had two very small children at the time. I think Elijah was possibly 3, Blaze was about 1.
Yeah.
No one was sleeping in our household, certainly not me. And so Josh had, been through a pretty grueling campaign to become Attorney General. Was so fortunate to win that and was doing great work as Missouri's Attorney General. He had taken down the largest human trafficking ring in the state's history, I believe. If I'm wrong, it's my fault. But he had taken just amazing steps to protect the state and to protect his people. And yet he kept getting these phone calls to say, Josh, you should really think about running for Senate. And the phone calls kept coming and coming. And I think I always knew in the back of my mind that this was something the Lord had called us to, but it was definitely a process in thinking and praying through that. Certainly not something we anticipated or even necessarily even wanted to do at that time. But the Lord kept knocking, the doors kept opening, and after a prayerful process, I think what we sort of came to, or at least what I came to, is we looked at these two small boys who were, all consuming, that we wanted to be able to look at them and tell them, we did what we could, regardless of the outcome of the race. We wanted to be able to serve and to say, we took the step in faith. The result is up to the Lord, but we did what we could.
In this hour of need for the country,
Yes.
we felt like, that's what, for me, as we thought through it, it just, this seemed like a real hour of need. And we always have to ask ourselves, especially for those of us who are followers of Jesus, where are we being called? Where can we serve the Lord? Where is he moving? Where is he working? And so in this hour of need, we just felt like, well, maybe we were unexpectedly being called to the Senate. Maybe that's where we could really serve. But that was a journey. To put it mildly, it took us a long time to decide, longer than many people wanted. But here we are. The Lord opened that door, and here we are. But I think that's what we want to say, is that we don't have the answers. We don't have a formula. We're not experts. We're just people trying to figure it out.
And sometimes it's really messy.
And it's really messy, and it's unexpected. But we know that there is that full life. We know that you can experience the joy and the culture of heaven now. We can live heaven down now, and we just want to walk through that with you. And just share a little bit of what we're going through in all of these things with you. And that's really what we're going to do on this podcast. Marriage it really makes you strong. Marriage it's such an empowering thing, and it can be it's so transformative in such an awesome way. And you want to talk about multiplying your effectiveness. You want to talk about living in a deeper, more powerful way, more meaningful way. Marriage is really, it's all about that. And it's so exciting for those reasons. But I think people need encouragement right now, because what we're seeing in this country, marriage is tough, and fewer people are getting married. More marriages are ending. It's tough.
It is. And the day-to-day struggle is real. Like Josh and I continually work on our marriage.
Oh.
And it's worth it. As Josh said, I love that description of marriage as being for one another, and being that support, that rock, that sort of En-Gedi, if you're thinking about David, that place that he went to, the stronghold and fortress. And then as men and women, we can go out and raise children. We can go out and work in the marketplace, but we can come home to a solid foundation. And I remember hearing one story from a pastor about a young girl. We'll call her Stephanie, but she was just the delight of her parents. Her parents had had a really hard time getting pregnant. They had had several miscarriages, and now they had their only child, Stephanie. And she was in college, and a professor was asking them a question about whether their parents, if the students thought their parents loved them more, the students, or if the student thought their parents loved each other more. And Stephanie was the only person who raised her hand thinking that her parents loved each other more.
Then they loved her.
Yes,
yeah,
they loved
right.
her. And she was, it was so interesting because she found this so reassuring. She said it didn't make her feel badly at all. Instead, she knew that her parents' foundation was solid, that her home was solid, that she didn't have to try to fix them or to fix herself to fit in, that she knew that parental love, that marriage was the foundation out of which she could grow and flourish. Yeah,
that's so awesome. That's so awesome. I think one thing that we want to talk with you about today is what does success in marriage really look like? What's it look like what is a great marriage? And we always say we're not experts. No. We're just people. We're just people. We're just on the journey trying to figure it out. But I hope that maybe today we'll maybe change your mind a little bit about what success in marriage looks like, what a great marriage looks like, maybe challenge some preconceptions. I know that we as a married people, we get pushed at us all the time. Well, your marriage needs to look like this. If to be successful, it needs to look like that. I don't know. We found that a lot of times those messages really miss what real success in marriage is, what a great marriage really looks like. So we just want to share some of our journey in that with you today. And the Bible has a lot to say about marriage, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the verses that we've all heard are, that a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. So when you enter into marriage, there's this wonderful gift where the Holy Spirit is also part of that marriage. So the two of us are joined together, but alongside that marriage of two human beings, we have God actually participating in that and helping us through that. And then I also love the verse that says, two are better than one, because when one stumbles, if he or she is alone, there's no one to pick them up. But if two are together, the second person can come along and support and undergird and help that person. And to me, that's a picture of marriage, that you are helping one another, that when one person is weak or having a hard time, the other person can be strong, and vice versa.
I also think of way back in Genesis, all the way back, you see in the scripture where God creates male and female, and then he gives them to each other to be the first married couple. And then the Lord's commission to them, what is it they're supposed to do with their lives? What are they supposed to do? They're supposed to go out and they're supposed to tend the garden, make it beautiful, and then extend that throughout the whole earth. They're supposed to go make the earth beautiful. And that commission comes to them together. It comes to them as a married couple, which is really kind of awesome when you think about it. I mean, and this is directly from the Lord himself. He says, hey, go out there and make the world beautiful. Go out there and use your talents. Go out there and use your skills. Go out there and represent me in the earth. And you do that as husband and wife. You do it as a married couple. That's pretty inspiring, I think, and can help give us some direction for marriage. Maybe we should tell people about how we ended up married. It's a question Aaron's family would still like to know the answer to. How did this happen? We had such high hopes, and she's married to him.
Hardly. Let's see. So we sort of met in law school, did not know one another very well at all, and then it ended up clerking for the same judge. We shared an office. The job was so busy. We
should tell people what clerking is.
Oh, sure. Yes. So, yes.
Well, it's just working. It just means you work for a judge. So we worked at the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court together. This is when you're done with law school, and sometimes before you go out and you start practicing law, you have the opportunity to work for a judge, usually for a year at a time. And the judge selects, typically it's 4 clerks, and there's lots of different judges all across the country. And then the Supreme Court, of course, there's 9 of them, and they take a set of clerks every year. So Aaron and I ended up working at the Supreme Court at the same time. And like I said, we really didn't know one another. I mean, we knew of one another, but didn't really know one another. And we started in July. I don't know. Should we give the year?
A long time ago.
Yeah, July of 2007. And we literally shared an office, which meant Aaron was couldn't escape. I got to talk to her the entire day. And we started dating pretty shortly thereafter.
We did, and we had 4 co-clerks, or 2. We had four clerks, 2 co-clerks.
Yeah.
And so we kind of kept it under wraps, just didn't want to.
Oh, by kind of we mean completely. So we didn't tell anybody, because dating a coworker can, it can be. Some of you've done that. Like it can be strange. And we didn't want it to be awkward for our fellow clerks. I mean, that was the main thing. Our colleagues, like we didn't, because keep in mind, everybody's young. I mean, now both of our co-clerks, so it was 3 men and 1 woman. Aaron was the woman, and then 3 guys, and the other guys were both married. So, I mean, none of that would have been weird, but it was just that, you think, well, if those 2 are dating, is that kind of strange? So we started dating in the fall, and we kept it a secret for 9 solid months, which, I was pretty proud of, actually.
Began dating at the Supreme Court, dated for several years. And then Josh completely surprised me by asking me to marry him. It was really beautiful, actually. It was my birthday, or we were celebrating my birthday.
Yeah.
And I helped to throw a surprise party for him. So he had sort of, I could tell something was going on, but I thought it was probably a surprise party for my birthday. And so we go up to his apartment, and there's nobody there. So I was like, this is kind of strange. And then it was this really lovely woman. So there was rose petals all over the floor. I went out to the balcony. Beautiful picture of the DC skyline, and Josh ends up proposing, and I am floored, totally surprised. He tells me now that he had carried around the ring for several months, but I had no idea. So I was very surprised and elated. But yes.
And she didn't let me get through my speech. I had this, guys will be able to relate to this. I had this little speech rehearsed. I thought, I want to get this right. It's a high pressure moment. I want to get this right. So I had the whole thing down, go down on one knee. By the way, it was freezing
It was
cold. Aaron was born in January, so it was freezing cold. And I actually wanted to propose to her outside, but it was like 7 degrees. So then I had to do a last minute, like, that's not going to work. We can't be outside this whole time. So then I thought, well, we'll do it at my apartment. It's got this little, this is when we were had just finished clerking the court. We were both then had started practicing law and in DC, and so it was kind of tight quarters, but the little balcony you could see like the Capitol building across the river. So anyway, we're out there. I go down on one knee, and Aaron didn't let me get through my talk, which I guess was good. But I think I might have said, wait a minute, I'm not finished yet. She still married me. Yeah, I don't necessarily recommend that. You guys out there, if you're thinking of getting married, like maybe if your wife says yes, your wife to be, just take that. You know.
There you go.
Exactly. I think my sister's kind of a younger sister. I think my sister's comment when I told her, she's like, "Did you get it in writing?" Because I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's gonna last. Anyway. So that was that was the beginning.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then pretty shortly thereafter, I'm from Missouri. Obviously, that's why we represent Missouri in the Senate, and we moved home to Missouri, and then we had a year or two after that we had kids, and then life got really crazy.
Yes.
I think that when we think about parenting with purpose, what that means, what we want to talk about today is how can you get momentum as a parent? You know, how can you really get some momentum for your family? I mean, because we know what it's like to have a crazy household. I mean, with the kids, our kids, the ages that they are, every day is something new. Every day is something crazy. Every day is something a little chaotic. And that's okay. You know, that's life. But in the midst of that, how do you find purpose? How do you communicate that to your kids? And how do you get some momentum as a parent? And that's, we wanted to share with you what we're learning and what we're going through and our adventure in this regard.
Absolutely. And as we were thinking about this episode, we were talking just about how people are having fewer children. So people are having fewer children. Yeah. Fewer people are having children. And we understand, some of the reasons for that. Kids are messy. Yeah. They're loud. They're also expensive. And sometimes you just, how are you going to make this work? And Josh has some really good policy ideas about that for another day. But kids are tough and difficult. But oh my goodness, they are so worth it. And so as parents, God has given us these 3 children, and He has given them to us to raise up in the knowledge and love of the Lord. And we need and want to be intentional about that. It's easy as a mom and dad to be putting out fires and to be focusing on particular behaviors. And while that is good and right, we also want to parent sort of with the long game and what it is we want our children to look like, what characteristics we hope to instill, and just to be really purposeful as we go about the day-to-day tasks of parenting.
Yeah, and we just want to say to you that, it's worth it. And for folks out there, so many folks also, they want to have kids. Maybe they're not able to, or they're thinking about adopting a kid, or maybe that, you're recently remarried, and so you're thinking about, well, my spouse has kids of their own, and so now we're trying to integrate our families, or you're a single parent. I mean, families come in all shapes and sizes, Absolutely. But our experience has been, and we just want to encourage you, boy, your kids are worth it. They're worth fighting for. They're worth prioritizing. They're worth putting right at the top of your list of what matters to you in life. And you think about leaving a legacy. I just want to say to the men out there, you think about, you want to matter, you think about leaving a legacy, man, your kids are where it's at. That it's an incredible responsibility to help empower them, to protect them, and to give them momentum. We want to have momentum through the generations, So whatever momentum I might have in my life, I want to give that to my kids. And I want them to be able to do even more than I'm doing. I've said before, I want my ceiling to be their floor. And this is such a high calling to be a parent, to be a mom, to be a dad. And we just wanted to say to you today, if nothing else, we want you to feel encouraged from this, that, hey, you can do it. Believe me, if we can do it, you can do it.
Absolutely.
We'll do it together. We'll get through it together. So let's talk a little bit about that, Aaron, and what it looks like to parent with purpose. And maybe starting with this, what does success look like in parenting? I mean, because you talk about a topic that's fraught. I mean, we were just looking at a book the other day, about, are your kids on track for this and that? Have they hit their milestones? I mean, it can be so overwhelming and so stressful. So we think about success in parenting. What do you think about that? What does success look like?
So again, I think it looks different for different families. But for what we're going for, what I think about for success in parenting is really having that child's identity rooted and grounded in the love of Jesus. Because you're going to have the world telling your kiddo all sorts of things. You're going to have the world telling your kiddo they need to look a certain way, they need to act a certain way, they need to have certain things, and they're going to get those messages starting out really young. And so what I hope and pray for our children is they realize the deep love that Jesus has for them without them having to do anything, that he loves them as they are and that identity is secure and firm. And I just want them to know internally who they are as sons and daughters of Jesus, and to be able to live with confidence out of that, to be able to go and do the things that the Lord has planned for them. I love that verse that tells us that the Lord has planned good things for all of us, plans to prosper and not to harm. And I can't wait to see what those things are for my kid. And I want to be able to equip him and her to do that, but by building up that identity they have in Jesus.
Yeah, that's exciting. I mean, that's, as I just hear you say that is exciting. You talk about a high calling and a high mission, something to really go after every day. With my work, I don't always get to be there in the mornings. I mean, there are times where I'll be there for a little bit of the mornings. I wake up in the house, obviously, but I frequently leave the house before the kids have gone to school. But usually, with my schedule in the Senate, when we're in session and with the kids' calendars, usually I get to take the boys to school twice a week. Usually Mondays and Fridays, I can take the boys to school in the mornings, and man, I just cherish those times. And I would just say to dads, if you're thinking about, boy, what can I do to make a difference in my kid's life? I mean, practically, what can I do? I would just say one thing that I've found is that every moment you can seize to spend with your kids is worth it. And sometimes it's not the big things. I think sometimes as fathers we have this tendency to think, well, if I can't give 2 hours, I'm going to give nothing. If I can't be there for the entire morning, I'm just not going to be there at all. Well, I mean, listen, every inch is something, right? So on the 2 days where I can take him to school, I try to take hold of that time and I take him to school, and I love that time in the car with them. I drive them in my truck, and sometimes they fight the whole way. Sometimes, usually not. But, just having that time with them is key. And then I see them then again in the evenings, and I try to prioritize getting home in time to have dinner with the family. And then our kind of routine is that I take the first pass at putting the boys to bed. It kind of takes multiple efforts. Daddy takes the first pass at getting the boys their showers, their teeth brushed, getting them to bed, read them a story, and then mommy comes in and seals the deal. But that's sort of a rhythm that we have. And, for me, what I try to communicate to the boys is I think about using that time. When I'm with them in the morning, when I'm driving them to school, what I'm trying to do there is I'm trying to give them some positivity. I'm trying to get them excited about the day. Like, today is going to be a great day. Today, you're going to have so much fun at school today. And I try to ask them about what they're excited about today. What's going to happen at school? What are you going to get out of this day? And I feel like my job is, or something I can do for them is, hey, I can help them approach this day with excitement and be positive about it. And then in the evening, I try to help them be thankful. And so we often say, hey, what am I thankful for today? And as we're going to bed, we try to orient, when we pray together, our prayer around that. Like, thank you, Lord, that today I got to play kickball. And that is often at the top of our boys' list. Say, what happened? What was good at school today? We played recess, and we played kickball, and we won. But, so whatever it is, but some thankfulness. And so trying to build in, to the extent I can, those routines of trying to be positive and optimistic in the morning, what we're looking forward, trying to be thankful in the evening. And I find, for me, that helps me sense a feel of rhythm and momentum. And, I think it just, hopefully, it's given the kids and given the boys some patterns they can grab onto that'll be positive for them.
Absolutely. Our boys treasure that time. There are, occasions when Josh can't be here, and our oldest will say, I can't go to sleep unless Daddy reads. And so he loves that. And I so appreciate about Josh that, he could be gone every night of the week. There would It's always an invitation to speak or to serve. And most nights he's here putting the boys to bed. And that means the world to me and also to our children who will have memories of that time that you've invested in them. And so I like that idea of intentionality. One of our kids' pediatricians told me one time, life is chaotic. I only had 2 at that point. We had 2 boys and they were crazy boys. And he said, if you can just spend 5 minutes each day with each child, 5 minutes, like that's not very long, 5 minutes with each kid each day, doing whatever it is that child wants to do. It'll probably be throwing balls for one of us, our kiddos, probably be, doing an art project for the other one. But I love this idea of intentionally investing just 5 minutes doing whatever it is that kid wants to do with you, just to show interest in what that child is doing and learning and be invested in them.
I think one of the biggest challenges that families face today, any family, even if you don't have kids, but especially if you do, one of the biggest challenges people face is technology. Technology is all around us with our mobile screens and devices. I probably got a phone here right within reach. Everybody does, right? And so how do you parent in the midst of that? How do you navigate that? Boy, that's something we've had to think through and are still thinking through as a family. And that is a challenge, big time challenge that every family faces.
Absolutely. And not too long ago, a friend mentioned a story about a family that she knows. Everyone has been doing remote learning as of late. And this young person was taking part in remote learning, accidentally left his camera on
his phone, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
And went and changed clothes. Anyway, this video of him without clothes was shared with his classmates, and it was absolutely devastating. And it's just, it's something that could happen to any of us. Nothing he did wrong, and yet really disruptive, really terrible part of this young person's life.
And a lot of people have stories like that, unfortunately. And, whether it's how do you navigate social media, how do you navigate having the presence constantly of the mobile platform, the device? I mean, video games are a piece of that too, I suppose. We haven't quite reached the video game stage with our kids yet. They're too young. But the technology question, I think, is huge. So we just want to talk with you about that today because, if there's something that we have to think through all the time, it's definitely technology. Our own views on this have shifted a little bit over time. Absolutely. And, we just thought we'd share with you what we're going through and what we're living through in this respect. And I think there's really 2 big questions to ask here, which is why is technology worrisome? Why would we be concerned about it at all as parents, as followers of Christ? Why is it worrisome? And then secondly, what are we gonna do about it? I mean, if you are concerned about it, what are you gonna do about it? So I think those are 2 things that we'd love to think through with you. And on that first topic, I mean, why is tech worrisome? Why does it present challenges? Boy, there's a lot that we could talk about there, beginning with the effect of technology, social media in particular, on young people's view of themselves.
Absolutely. And we have a very young daughter now who thankfully is too young to even know what Instagram is. But the studies are replete that the mental health of young girls is negatively impacted by social media. And they see pictures, and picture perfect pictures of their friends, and they think that's what they're supposed to look like. That's how they're supposed to dress. And it's just a really unrealistic view of womanhood. And it destroys these young girls who think they don't measure up. We were reading in a book not long ago how girls stumble or struggle with self-hatred. And this is something that takes place before the social media world. And in today's climate where girls see these picture-perfect pictures of their friends or people they don't know, social media influencers, they think that's what they have to look like in order to measure up. And that's just not the truth. They are beautiful and lovely. And so I think as moms of young girls, ours is too young at this point, but we want to protect her. We want her to know that she's beautiful through and through, and she doesn't have to look like any picture.
Yeah, like anybody else.
Yep.
She doesn't have to look like anybody else to be beautiful, and certainly not like what she sees on social media. I think one of the things I would say about why technology can be worrisome and why social media in particular is something that as a parent we're concerned about is that it's addictive. And there's so much data on this by this point. I've had the chance to write a little bit about this in my book, The Tyranny of Big Tech. And, it is, when you look at the data, social media is addictive, and it's meant to be. That's the thing. It's designed to be. The way that our phones are set up with the different colors and the badges and the alerts and the dinging. Once you're onto a social media platform, whether that's Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, Snapchat, they're designed to hold your attention. They're designed to draw you back toward it. And so, anything that's addictive, you want to ask yourself, hold on here. If it's meant to be addictive, somebody's trying to influence my behavior. Why is that? I mean, that's a good question to ask. But then for our kids, there's also this aspect that it rewires the brain. The addictive nature of these platforms, these social media platforms, that is, can have the effect over time of sort of rewiring the brain. It's like, as one former engineer at Google has put it, it's like putting a casino in every child's pocket. The idea is to encourage you, in fact, to create an insatiable need to be on that mobile platform, to be checking the social media, to be engaged constantly. And the brain really does get rewired over time.
And I mean, we can see this in our own lives. How many times do I pick up the phone and check my email or look at Facebook or those sorts of things? And if that is sort of the inclination that I can feel and fight against, how much more is that doing that to our children who don't have the defenses, who have never grown up in a world where they didn't have a mobile device right at hand? So that, I think, is convicting as I look at my own usage. How do I protect my child from something that can transform their brain? And so the question is, what is it we're going to do about it? I remember watching, I think Josh was talking about his book with a news host that I usually really like. But the news host said something, like we have to have changes. We have to be able to regulate these companies. And there's a lot to say there. But he went on to say, because parents just can't say no. And as a mom, I took a little umbrage at that. Like, that's our job. As moms, it's our job to protect our children. And that doesn't mean a flat out no to everything. But it means thinking sensibly as a family about what makes sense for device use for your own kiddos, and being proactive about that, because it can be extremely harmful to these kids.
And, we've had our own sort of journey with that, right? I mean, thinking about the use of devices and technology for our kids. Our oldest child, Elijah, who's 8 years old now, when he was first born, and about the age was he about one, maybe it seems like, or maybe 2 years old, we thought about getting an iPad for him. Our friend, all of our friends are doing it. But seriously, we talked to many of our friends who are the same age and had kids, and they said, listen, the iPad can have a lot of great educational material on it. We thought for long car rides, and so we went so far to get an iPad that he could use. I remember getting the little case, right, the special kid case. It was like where it's indestructible. You could like set off a nuclear bomb and it survives. So I remember getting that for him and giving it to him. We think, hey, this is going to be great. But we quickly found that it wasn't so great from our perspective.
No, and kids have different reactions, but it ended up he was quite cranky. Our kids will actually even do this with TV. If they spend some time on a screen, you might be able to get something done in that 30 minutes, but then they come back and they're cranky. Like something has happened that they want to continue watching and they want to continue playing, and if you don't allow that, it impacts their attitude and their mental outlook. Yeah,
and I just remember with Elijah, the fixation on the device was really quick and really strong. And I remember one of the first red flags for us is he would tell people that, I have my own iPad. I have this iPad. And then wanting to be close to it all the time, wanting to be playing with it, wanting to be on it, then asking when he could get a phone. I remember him talking about, when do I get a phone? I'm thinking, you're 2. I mean, and I think for us, I know for me, that really began our process of thinking through, now, okay, wait a minute, maybe we've just taken for granted our own technology use as adults. And then maybe we've just taken it for granted that this is automatically great for kids and for our kid. And, every parent knows it. I mean, your kids are your own gut check, right? I mean, a lot of things you do in your life, you don't think about. When you have a kid, you think, well, wait a minute. Is this a good idea? And so that's what really started us on this journey as a couple and as a family. And we started reading some of this literature and reading about the effect of technology. And, that's when we said, whoa, there's a lot here that's really, really disturbing. And so since that time, we really now do it pretty differently. Well, thanks for joining us for This Is Living with Josh and Aaron Hawley. Life can be more. Don't settle for less. Join us next time for a fresh episode. And until then, we'd love to hear from you. You can connect with us by visiting joshhawley.com and sign up for our email list. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And most importantly, share this podcast with a friend and leave us a review on Google Play or Apple Podcast. Until next time, thanks for listening to This Is Living.
There's a good life out there. Let's go and find it. Paid for by Josh Hawley for Senate. Approved by Josh Hawley.